Have you ever been in a room full of people and noticed how some men immediately command respect without raising their voice, flashing money, or boasting about achievements? Meanwhile, others try to prove themselves at every turn, only to be ignored, or worse, dismissed. The difference isn't luck, it's psychology. It's the subtle art of being taken seriously, and most men completely misunderstand how it works. Most men think being respected is about what you say or what you show off. They post about their accomplishments, highlight their wealth, or flaunt their physical prowess, believing these things automatically earn admiration. But here's the harsh truth. Bragging, flexing, and showing off rarely create genuine respect. They create tension, envy, or skepticism. Real seriousness comes from how you carry yourself, how you communicate, and how consistent your actions are over time. Psychology shows that people, especially women, pay attention to energy, presence, and authenticity before they consider credentials, money, or status. A man who is calm, self-assured, and emotionally grounded naturally projects authority. His words carry weight because he doesn't need to force attention or validation. Conversely, a man who overcompensates, interrupts, or embellishes signals insecurity, even if he's impressive on paper. Another overlooked aspect is how you handle reactions. Being taken seriously isn't about dominating a conversation. It's about holding your ground, responding thoughtfully, and letting others reveal their character while you maintain composure. Emotional stability signals maturity, credibility, and authority. Women, and people in general, pick up on this instinctively. Here's the secret most men miss. Respect is cumulative. It isn't won in a single grand gesture or a flashy display. It's built quietly, through consistency, emotional intelligence, and subtle influence. You don't need to prove yourself. You need to project alignment between your internal state and external presence. When you do, people notice. They listen. They value your perspective. They take you seriously without you ever saying, "Look at me." The first step in this transformation is recognizing that most men are trying too hard, and trying hard always signals the opposite of confidence. Your credibility is measured not by how much you show off, but by how much control, calm, and clarity you maintain. The second truth about being taken seriously is far more subtle than power moves or status symbols. It's the mastery of presence. Presence is not about intimidation or dominance. It's about the quiet, undeniable signal that you exist with purpose, clarity, and control. Women and men alike sense it instantly. It's the energy that makes people lean in when you speak, respect your opinion, and feel compelled to follow your lead. Most men confuse presence with volume or aggression. They raise their voice, interrupt conversations, or dominate the room to force attention. But psychology shows this backfires. People are drawn to composed authority, not desperate attempts to impress. Presence is conveyed through your posture, your breathing, your pacing, and the subtle rhythm of your speech. A man who stands grounded, moves deliberately, and speaks with calm confidence signals that he is someone worth listening to. Another overlooked element is listening as a tool of influence. Men often focus on talking themselves up, trying to prove their worth, while ignoring the power of genuine attention. When you listen actively, respond thoughtfully, and make people feel understood, you communicate credibility without saying a word. Women, and everyone, detect authenticity instinctively. This is why leaders, mentors, and magnetic men rarely have to advertise themselves. Their presence, their ability to command attention quietly, speaks for itself. Consistency also amplifies seriousness. Your words, energy, and actions must align across every interaction. A man who says one thing, acts another way, or reacts emotionally loses credibility instantly. Psychology shows that subtle misalignment triggers distrust and reduces influence. Conversely, a man who projects consistent calm, confidence, and emotional control builds subconscious respect. People naturally defer to him, seek his opinion, and trust his judgment. Here's the hidden truth. Being taken seriously is rarely about proving yourself externally. It's about mastering your internal state first. Control your emotions, clarify your intentions, and embody calm authority. The moment your internal alignment reflects outwardly, respect follows automatically. You no longer need to brag, flex, or force recognition. People notice, they listen, and women, even without thinking consciously, respond to that subtle signal of a man who operates with grounded purpose. The third key to being taken seriously is emotional control under pressure. Most men think respect comes from achievements, physical presence, or intelligence, but the psychology of credibility proves otherwise. How you respond when things get tense or unpredictable is far more influential than any accomplishment or boast. Women, and people in general, notice emotional stability before they notice anything else. Think about it. A man who reacts impulsively, raises his voice, or over-explains when challenged signals insecurity, even if he's skilled or successful. Conversely, a man who maintains calm, pauses before responding, and chooses words deliberately demonstrates mastery over himself, and that mastery is magnetic. Emotional control creates an invisible authority. It signals that you can handle life, challenges, and relationships without drama or neediness. This is especially important in social interactions. Women unconsciously evaluate men for stability, confidence, and reliability within seconds. A slight nervous gesture, a rushed response, or overcompensation can destroy perceived credibility instantly. But a man who holds his energy steady, even in subtle provocations or social tests, projects strength, reliability, and calm dominance. That is how serious men are recognized without needing to boast. Another layer is selective vulnerability. Being taken seriously doesn't mean hiding your emotions or being stoic 24/7. It means showing the right emotions in the right context. Expressing passion, curiosity, or empathy thoughtfully signals authenticity and depth. But overreacting or sharing insecurity indiscriminately signals instability. The balance between controlled expression and internal composure is where true credibility lives. Here's the psychological insight most men overlook. People respect men who are predictable in their self-mastery, but unpredictable in energy and creativity. That means you remain grounded and emotionally stable while engaging in conversation with subtle intrigue and presence. You are not reactive, you are responsive. You don't chase validation, you inspire it. If you master emotional control, your words, presence, and energy will carry weight automatically. You won't need to brag, flex, or overperform. People will listen because they sense a man who knows himself, who can handle challenges, and whose stability and composure demand attention. That is the foundation of being taken seriously. The fourth truth about being taken seriously is the power of subtle authority. Most men mistake dominance for volume, aggression, or overconfidence, but psychology proves that true authority is quiet, consistent, and effortless. It's not about proving you're the strongest, smartest, or richest. It's about projecting credibility through small, deliberate signals that communicate competence, reliability, and grounded presence. Authority is reinforced by how you speak, move, and respond, not what you say. A man who leans in slightly, maintains steady eye contact, and pauses before speaking signals control and confidence. These micro-behaviors subconsciously tell women and everyone else that you are someone worth listening to. Loudness, bragging, or aggressive posturing, on the other hand, often triggers skepticism and pushes people away. The paradox is simple. The quieter, calmer, and more measured your presence, the more magnetic and influential it becomes. Another overlooked aspect is consistency over time. One confident interaction doesn't automatically create credibility. A man who reacts impulsively on some occasions, apologizes unnecessarily on others, or shifts between extremes in energy loses respect quickly. Psychology shows that consistent calm, composure, and measured responses create subconscious trust. Women instinctively recognize that consistency equals reliability, and reliability equals respect. Strategic restraint is also key. Men who try too hard to prove themselves, dominate every conversation, or constantly highlight achievements actually reduce their authority. Being taken seriously is about knowing when to speak, when to act, and when to stay silent. Controlled restraint signals that your value is inherent. You don't need to advertise it. Your energy communicates it naturally. Here's the hidden insight most men miss. Respect and seriousness aren't earned through force. They are drawn through subtle signals, emotional alignment, and presence that communicate stability and competence. Women, in particular, notice these cues instinctively. They respond to grounded authority, emotional composure, and deliberate confidence far more than flashy displays or superficial charm. The real test of seriousness is how you operate under observation, whether in casual conversation, a professional setting, or social dynamics. True authority is subtle, magnetic, and psychologically compelling. It's the invisible force that makes people listen, respect, and respond without you ever needing to prove anything. Here's the psychological insight most men overlook. People respect men who are predictable in their self-mastery, but unpredictable in energy and creativity. That means you remain grounded and emotionally stable while engaging in conversation with subtle intrigue and presence. You are not reactive, you are responsive. You don't chase validation, you inspire it. If you master emotional control, your words, presence, and energy will carry weight automatically. You won't need to brag, flex, or overperform. People will listen because they sense a man who knows himself, who can handle challenges, and whose stability and composure demand attention. That is the foundation of being taken seriously. The fifth principle of being taken seriously is the mastery of boundaries. Most men underestimate how critical boundaries are in creating respect and authority. Women, and people in general, instinctively assess how a man values himself by the limits he sets and enforces. A man who says yes to everything, who overextends to please, or who tolerates disrespect communicates low self-worth, regardless of accomplishments. Boundaries are silent signals of confidence and self-respect, and they speak louder than words ever could. Psychology shows that enforcing boundaries isn't about being rigid or controlling. It's about clarity and consistency. When you know your values and communicate them subtly, people sense that you are emotionally stable, reliable, and in control. For women, this signals that you are capable of leading and protecting your own life, and it naturally triggers respect and attraction. Conversely, inconsistent or weak boundaries create confusion, tension, and erode your credibility. Boundaries also amplify your presence. When you refuse to over-explain, chase validation, or tolerate unnecessary drama, you signal that your energy is finite and valuable. People respond instinctively to scarcity of attention and intentionality of action. This doesn't mean arrogance, it means psychological authority. You are taken seriously because your behavior communicates that your time, energy, and attention are not freely given. They are earned through alignment, respect, and value. Another overlooked element is emotional boundaries. Being serious doesn't require suppressing emotion, but it does require managing reactions. Reacting impulsively or emotionally to minor slights signals instability. A man who responds thoughtfully, holds his energy steady, and communicates calmly demonstrates emotional intelligence, reliability, and maturity, qualities that naturally command respect from women and men alike. Here's the psychological insight most men miss. Respect is rarely about achievements, status, or dominance. It's about how you carry yourself, how you manage energy, and how clearly you enforce personal boundaries. When these elements align, your presence alone communicates authority. You don't have to brag, flex, or overperform. People notice, they listen, and they naturally defer to your perspective. The men who succeed are not louder or flashier. They are emotionally intelligent, boundary-aware, and consistent in energy and presence. This is the foundation of being taken seriously, and once mastered, it transforms every interaction, every conversation, and every relationship in your life. The final truth about being taken seriously is the art of influence without force. Most men believe respect comes from proving themselves, dominating conversations, or showing off achievements, but psychology proves the opposite. Influence, credibility, and authority are most powerful when they are subtle, consistent, and grounded in authenticity. People, especially women, sense when a man doesn't need to force respect. It creates magnetic authority. Influence begins with self-mastery. Your words carry weight when your internal state is calm, confident, and aligned with your values. A man who reacts impulsively, seeks approval, or over-explains dilutes his credibility, even if he is knowledgeable or successful. Conversely, a man who responds thoughtfully, listens actively, and communicates with purpose signals competence and stability. Women, consciously or not, recognize this immediately. They trust and respect him without requiring overt displays. Another overlooked factor is strategic patience. Being taken seriously isn't about immediate results. It's about creating a long-term impression of reliability and self-assuredness. Men who rush, over-explain, or try to impress signal desperation. Men who act with patience, measured action, and controlled energy communicate that they operate from a place of strength, not need. This subtle tension creates psychological pull, curiosity, and respect, all without a single boast. Micro-behaviors matter immensely. How you move, speak, and even breathe can reinforce authority. Calm gestures, steady eye contact, thoughtful pauses, and deliberate tone communicate credibility far more than words ever could. Every small signal compounds into a perception of seriousness. When all these elements align, you become naturally magnetic, respected, listened to, and psychologically compelling. Here's the final insight most men never understand. You are taken seriously when your internal state dictates your external presence, not the other way around. Achievements, looks, or possessions amplify respect, but they cannot create it if your energy is inconsistent, reactive, or desperate. Women, and people in general, feel the difference between a man who is grounded and a man who is trying too hard. Here's your personal equation to master. Internal calm plus emotional control plus aligned presence plus clear boundaries equals effortless respect and influence. Drop your answer in the comments. Which of these 4 areas do you most need to strengthen right now? If this video opened your eyes, like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this today. Master this, and you will command respect without ever needing to prove yourself.